I made a mistake. I'll come back and fix it. You don't owe me nothing. And in this excavation world, when you got to go fix something free, it's not necessarily cheap.
Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I am your host, Ryan Deemer. And today we're going to sit down with Cole Morse. He's the dynamic force behind M&M EarthWurx. He's based out of Smithville, Indiana. He's got a beautiful wife, Hannah. And he transitioned from a career as an HVAC technician to start his own contracting work back in 2021. He dove right in, no employees. He focuses on land clearing, drainage solutions, and driveway construction. And his specialty niche is motocross track development, which is exactly how he got into the excavation business. He's faced a bunch of challenges, from hitting unmarked utility lines, overcoming scheduling hurdles, all while emphasizing the importance of effective communication with his clients and the power of word of mouth to get more referrals. So continue to listen, and we're going to hear from Cole about his journey right now. Before I introduce Cole, I do want to remind everybody that the Skid Steer Nation podcast is brought to you by none other than Skid Steer Nation. Visit skidsteernation.com. You can find the link in the show notes to see our full line of high-quality American-made skid steer attachments. So if you're looking for great attachments that are built as tough as you are and will give you a great return on investment, head over to skidsteernation.com. Cole, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah. This is probably, like I say it all the time, it's my favorite part of the week, is like getting to meet some new guys in the industry, hearing their stories, like what clicked for you to make you get into excavation, and just kind of go over all that. So like reading your little bio that you sent us, your whole family grew up as a HVAC, correct?
Yeah, my dad has owned an HVAC business since 1992. So I was born and bred into the HVAC family world.
Yeah. So you were probably the legacy plan for the HVAC company, right?
I think so. But but dirt bikes changed all that. Once you introduced me to that, I was like, well, HVAC's fun, but crawl space and attics and on call, I was like, I don't think this is going to be by the time I was 22, I was like, I'm ready to check something else out and see what's up in the excavation world.
Yeah. And your love of motocross got you into fine tuning or making some tracks. And that was kind of what really started you in the industry, right? Yeah.
So ironically enough, the Smithville, where I'm born and raised, I live in Spencer, Indiana now, which is out in the kind of, I guess, west of Smithville. But Smithville, where I was born and raised, where my dad lives, there's a little local excavation company there. And my dad actually traded out a big HVAC job for their shop. Instead of paying me, just come build my kid a track. I was in 8th grade, so I was 13, 14. But then once a track was built, in order to maintain it, my dad's like, here's the keys of this L30 Kubota tractor. It's got a bucket and a yard box. Figure out how to take care of it because I don't have time. So I was like, okay. So with trial and error and supervision at first, I learned how to build in my own jumps as I maintained the jump faces. And I trial and error and saw like what worked and what didn't for as far as how a track would work.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. I can't tell you how many people we interview on the show or talk to that have some sort of a motocross background. Like, it's crazy how going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour around those tracks transitions to going 3, 4, 5 miles an hour in an excavator or a skid steer, and you guys have the same passion and drive and love.
Yeah. Well, ironically, that's the first Supercross I ever attended. Was 1997 at the RCA Dome in Indy, and I'm pretty sure, I think if I remember correctly, my mom and dad and another couple had a suite. Like they were able to have a suite because my friend's grandma worked at RCA or something, so they had a suite. But I never watched the dirt bikes. I watched the excavators. So my mom had I was 3 years old. So when the races were all done, the EarthWurx came out to tear the track down. I sat there and I watched them. I didn't want to leave. My mom's like, you go to care less about the bikes. You want to watch the machines. So the interest has been there since I was 3 years old. So I've always thought something about dirt work.
That's so cool, man. So you were doing some side work, I assume, like everybody, whether it be for yourself or some friends. And then 2021, you're like, let's drop the hammer, go full bore and make a business out of this.
So back to my dad and HVAC and connections, it kind of all like networking and how you treat people, everything kind of ties into how my business works. But dirt bikes is like the center of how it started. So there was a gentleman that my dad had worked for him on an actual houseboat in Lake Monroe. So we did the marine HVAC for houseboats at the marinas. And my dad was a small talk with a customer, and the guy's like, I need a dirt bike track. Do you know anybody? Well, I was 19 at the time, and I had been building my own tracks and building base tracks for 5 years at that point. So my dad threw the guy my name. The guy reached out to me and one of my buddies, Nolan, who he's a contractor also now. But we both went down and built this guy a legit, humongous private course. We're both 19 years old. He ran the machines, gave us two D5s, a 279 cat skid steer, and said, here's what I want. You have a week to do it. Turns loose. So we were both 19 years old with free range, like no utilities, clean farm dirt, no rocks, just build whatever you want. And that ended up being a track called Parsons Motocross Compound, which ended up being one of the largest tracks in the state of Indiana. Which later in life, I went down and started managing that. And that's whenever I got into like more of the excavation side work. Like I learned more about how excavators and dump trucks and operations all work then. And that had been late 2019 is when that really took off.
That's so cool, man. I think it's so cool for two reasons. One, you were given the opportunity at such a young age.
Yeah.
With basically a blank slate, like just build a dream course that you'd like to ride on.
I got pictures and documentation, like the whole album on Facebook showing like a blank field, the equipment. I mean, literally me and my Nolan, we're like, dude, can you believe we're getting paid to do what we like to do? I'm like, I got to do this forever. How can I make this my career? Like I was just geeking over it. I mean, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'm like, let's go.
That's when you know you found your passion right there.
Well, that's when I knew then. So I'm 29 now. So 10 years ago, it's when I was like, man, if I could figure out a way financially. I mean, me and my wife weren't even together at that time. We met the year after that. So whenever I got with her, my whole vision was like, how can I either give a sustainable life, but yet do something I like to do? Because our HVAC was comfortable. I mean, I had a comfortable, my dad's business is a successful business. I was turnkey, locked and ready to go, but it's just my heart wasn't in it. I couldn't sell for that.
And that's tough, man. That's like sacrificing your soul for a dollar bill. And
it was hard. Tough. It was the hardest thing I ever did was tell my dad I'm leaving. Like it was hard. Like I had a lot of praying and a lot of faith. 2 years of praying and faith, and one day I'm like, I had to just tell him, I'm like, listen, I'm making a jump.
That's so fun. That's awesome, man. So what happened in 2021 that you just said, this is no longer going to be for fun or as a side extra cash? We're going to do this full time.
So I'll be honest, I had my sons were born. I had twin sons. And I was like, it's a kind of a crossroads in life. You present an opportunity like, listen, I have to make a livable wage to support my family the way I wanted to be supported as a kid. And although my dad had that successful business, I didn't necessarily feel like the timeline with what I wanted to live, how I wanted to live, and how I wanted my kids to live was going to line up with his retirement and what he wanted. And I couldn't just ask my dad, hey, my kids are born. Can you retire and give me the business? I want to make this much money. So I didn't feel it was right for me. So fortunately, whenever my wife and I, before we were married, my father-in-law's best friend's a realtor. He found this house we live in. So I bought the house in 2019. We remodeled it. Well, 2021, COVID, interest was going down. And me and my wife were brainstorming ideas. So we did a refi, like for 2.7% on the house, pulled money out, and then I started my side business in excavation just to see if it worked. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about excavating. I was going to get a stump grinder and grind stumps, but I couldn't find a stump grinder because everything was back ordered. So I started hauling gravel in my dump trailer, and then people started calling for driveways. And that old little tractor my dad let me use to build dirt bike jumps, he said, you can use it to do some driveways. And that's how it all learned. That's how it all started snowballing. And one Facebook post after another, my phone kept ringing, and people kept calling for bigger stuff. And then, I literally jumped in with no knowledge. I'm going to figure this out on the side. Like I would work my dad's 8 to 5, and then from 5 to 9, 5 to 10 p.m., I was figuring the dirt work thing out. So I did that for almost 2 years.
That's so cool. So cool. So yeah, a little tractor and a dump trailer. And I'm telling you, I hear that story from so many different people. Some old tractor they had access to, or they bought cheap. 2005
Kubota, and my dad's a little tractor.
And a little dump trailer. And then next thing you know, you've got multiple pieces of equipment, and you're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And it's like a blink of an eye. Like 3 years sounds like a long time looking forward, but looking backwards, it's like a blink of an eye. Yeah.
I mean, my first job, I never forget, a guy called me. Some buddies I went to high school with called me. They were doing a remodel, and the GC needed a driveway done. And I went and measured it all out. I got on Googled some gravel calculator, went to the driveway, and I think I made $700 at profit. And I'm like, I'm Bill Gates. Like, all right, this is it. I made $700 doing what I like. I said, I got to zone in on this. And that was with my dad's yard box and my tractor. And then I posted the before and after pics. Then I got and a rental account of cat, like our local cat dealer, because of ironically motocross, dirt bikes. People I know, it's really hard to get an account at a cat dealership to rent stuff. It's super hard. But with dirt bikes, I networked with people and I got an account there. So then I started renting stuff. So I couldn't even rent stuff for the first 6-7 months. It's hard without the proper insurance and the right account. You can't do that. So I mean, I guess you can at smaller places, but our local cat dealer, anything bigger than a 299, like or bigger than a 308, man, you can't rent without having an account.
Got
it. It kind of all the timeline snowballed. It was a perfect storm. It really was a perfect storm. And I owe all that to God. Obviously, I really do owe all that to God. But it just all worked out. And yeah, it seemed like that was eternity ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel that way. I mean, my journey's similar to yours, but like we started in 2020 and it feels sometimes looking forward like we've been doing it for a long time, but when you look back, you're like, God, that was just like a blink of an eye.
Yeah, literally. 2020 feels like it was last week, but you're like, wait a minute, we're 4 years ago.
I know.
Which starting a business in 2020, everybody who did that is nuts. If you guys, I mean, out of control. Like the mindset behind a business idea in 2020. Oh my gosh, like respect for you jumping for it, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it a lot in other episodes of the show, but I mean, I was part of a top-down layoff to get thin for COVID.
Yeah. I've heard.
Yeah, I was just like, no, nobody's gonna tell me when I can and can't make money ever again. I'm going back in business for myself.
That's another thing that really pushed me into the EarthWurx thing. And my dad, thankfully, my dad's an awesome dad. He's so supportive, and he didn't give me a bunch of money to do anything. He's like, you can figure it out. He goes, you know how to talk to people. You can network. He's like, if you want to do excavation, he goes, you know who to call to figure out what to do and not do. So that was the hardest part about transition to HVAC to excavating is I knew nothing about like how to slope drains or like sewage drains, how to compaction work, nothing. I knew how like a grand driveway so the water run off of it. And I knew if you built a jump this angle, how high in that area you go on a dirt bike. So I had to call in a lot of favors.
So over the last 2 or 3 years, would you say you've gotten more information from like your network and your mentors or have you gotten a degree in YouTube University?
Well, I started in that, and then I realized that YouTube doesn't apply to freaking Indiana. So if you're watching like Let's Dig, which that guy is an incredible YouTube follow, what he does not apply to Indiana. The dirt's different, the people's different, the elevation, everything's different up here. So I had to start calling around. Thankfully, two of my best friends are both union operators, and I really lean on them to help me. But they were like, "You're crazy! Like you were crazy for doing it." But I'm like, boys, if I fail, I'll go HVAC. But I have to try. I have to try for myself.
Yeah, I don't know about you, like looking back now, but you don't have a good idea until somebody in your circle says you're crazy.
Yeah. Oh no. And that's literally. I was like, if five of my friends will say I'm nuts, I'm doing it, and they all said it's not going to work. Why don't you stay with your dad? Stay with your dad. I mean, some of my buddies they saw my vision, knew the dirt bike track thing was going well. Because during COVID, I mean, me and my buddy Bodie, that was Parsons family, we built tracks all over Illinois, Indiana. Northern Indiana, we built tracks everywhere during COVID because no one could do nothing. So that was good. But the track building, like that business model wasn't going to be, I couldn't live off that. I had to learn other things in excavation. So, but yeah, I knew when my friends like, okay, tracks aren't going to work. We got to figure out something else. Excuse me. So I literally just figured it out. Just trial by fire, honestly. Just hit it head first and hope for the best.
Yeah, I love that, man. Like you grew up around a business owner. So like a lot of the principles from HVAC as far as how to treat a customer, the process of selling high ticket things.
Yep. The first phone call matters. Yeah,
like you've got all those values. So they just transition super easy.
Yep. The plug and play with the communication was very simple. And believe it or not, my dad is like me. He can talk to anybody. And he's a one-legged HVAC guy that busts his butt and never stopped. And he was just a go-getter. So naturally, I grew up with that mentality. So he never knew a stranger. I never knew a stranger. And I've met thousands of people talking. I mean, yesterday, I was just at Indianapolis Motor Speedway drilling flagpole holes from networking locally and met a guy that had a flagpole business. So I ended up working there. It's just crazy. And then 4 days before that, I'm pushing snow at the Indianapolis airport, doing snow plowing. Just got people I know from dirt bikes. It's just wild.
That's fantastic, man. That's so cool. So do you do more driveways or like what's your bread and butter these days?
Typically, the new driveways, and I'll be honest with you, A lot of lane clearing stuff, and then any like odd jobs. I have a lot of people that need small stuff done, like local dump truck companies. There's 2 local guys that I work with, and they'll like recommend me people. They'll call me. So a lot of like people building pole barns. I'll do pole barn pads. I'll do block clears. I still do quite a bit of dirt bike track stuff. But yeah, lane clearing and driveways and grading is a big thing. And then downspouts, drainage, stuff like that.
So how did you get them to recommend you, these guys that have the dump trucks? Like, are they just doing it as a friendly favor for you, or did you give them a little piece of the pie for the referral, or what's working for you in that?
Just, I'll be honest with you. The one guy, Dave Keith, delivered stone to my neighbor when I first bought this house. I went over and talked to him. He had a truck called the banana wagon. His truck says it's yellow, says banana wagon. And I'm like, that's funny. I'm gonna go check him out. The dude he had a handle on his grader thing. So he pulled a handle to spread. And before he took off, it wasn't hydraulic. So I thought that was cool. So I BS with him for 10, 15 minutes, got his number. And then when I went to start this business, I remembered his name. So I called him and he's like, yeah, dude, I'll help you with whatever I can. And then we just built a relationship. Like actually right now on my Instagram, there's a video of him spreading my personal driveway with his little hand out the window. And it's got like 1.4 million views. Just, it's nuts.
That's awesome, man. But again, like the power of not getting in your own way and not telling yourself, oh, I don't know reason for me to call him or go talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, I just tell him, like, listen, here's what I want to do. Here's what I know and don't know. I would love to work with you if I can. And then I've learned that being honest and admitting your faults and admitting you're just a human being goes a lot further than saying, oh, I can do this all perfect. Because regardless, I've messed up a lot. Like, I'm not going to say the last 2 or 3 years is perfect because I've cost myself a lot of money. But I'm looking at it as an education. So I'm like, well, I have to pay for an education. So as long as I don't blow myself up or knock someone's basement in, I'm good.
Yeah. And you're right. You got to pay for education. And unfortunately, you're going to pay for education until you retire because there's always going to be something that you're going to be learning.
Yep. Every day.
And Mike, you talk about hitting some unmarked utilities.
Oh, yeah.
Were they power, water? What'd you run into?
Right off a transformer. A guy was doing a remodel, and back to networking. My wife's a teacher. One of the women that teach in her school district, her husband figured about me because of our daycare our kids go to, and he called me. So that I went up and helped him do a foundation nightmare. He told me it was marked over here, which there was flags there. They weren't present flags. And I hit a main power feed with a 60D excavator, and it was just a massive, what you'd imagine, massive lightning bolt on the bucket. It was so scary.
Did you blow a hole in it?
Oh yeah. In the bucket. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. They in the arm. The power guy came out. He's like, "Bud, I bet that was scary." I said, "Dude, I've never experienced you just don't expect it because you think you're clear." So you're just digging. I was digging a French drain and just smoked it. And it was like, oh, I can still smell the smell of the pop and the metal. It was gnarly.
Yeah. So but again, you're going to be a lot more thorough next time you work around transformers. Like, it's an education.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely, I'm a spot dig everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I were just known, I thought about all the spot dig. I just thought the locates were good. Yeah. Right. That was one of those, oh, that's how that works moments. I was like, oh, probably shouldn't do that next time.
That's hilarious, man. So your kids are just a couple years old, right?
Yep, I have 2. They're both 2.5-year-old twin boys.
Yeah. What struggles do you have trying to balance business owner and dad of 2 young boys?
The first year they were live, that 2021, 2022, when I did HVAC and I did dirt work, I worked 40 weekends. So no, it was 37 weekends in a row I worked. I was gone. So the whole first, half of the year they're born, I was gone. But I knew that if I did that now, I could be here. Like now, I pick them up from daycare every day, take them to daycare every day. I schedule accordingly to where so the way I am, I put God first, family second, I put work third. That's how I prioritize my life. Because when I grew up, my dad was going a lot building his business. I don't remember my dad until I was like 5 or 6 because he just hustled so hard. And I don't want my kids to be there or be that way. So I saw it coming down the pipeline. I'm like, well, I'm going to work now really, really hard and try to set myself up. And then, by the grace of God, it worked out that way. So now this whole winter, I've been taking them to daycare, picking them up every day. I'm home with them every night for dinner. I mean, I get to be there. And that was one of my main reasons for starting my own business.
Yeah.
Time with my kids.
One of the things you just said there, talking about, you get to pick them up from daycare and drop them off and you plan accordingly.
Yep.
Have you noticed that by setting boundaries on your schedule, that you have more control over when and where customers and all of that versus just saying, yeah, I can meet you whatever time works for you.
Yeah, and I have a time of night to where I just, after a certain time of night, I'm not talking about work anymore. And then Sunday, I will not talk about work. I just, because I lived that life when I was a kid with my dad, I don't want my kids to go through that and see what that's like. But yeah, and back to being honest and open with customers. I mean, I know some guys don't think that way or are bred that way, but I'm just honest with customers. Like, listen, I got 2 sons. This is my wife's schedule. This is my schedule. I have to be that way. And I've taken my kids on estimates with them before and had them in the truck. You know, I could see the truck. They're sitting there waiting. I'm like, I can't go very far away from my truck with a customer. But I mean, if I can be with them, I take them with me.
Yeah. I just did an interview with a guy in California. He actually does home building, not excavation work. But like, yeah, he had a kid with his girlfriend that didn't work out, so they were never married. So he's a 50% parent.
Yeah.
And he would take the little one and like walk around projects, meeting with architects with the little kid. And he goes, it actually makes you more human.
Exactly. Because people realize you're not here to because the way I see it, you're not just selling your business, you're selling yourself. When you go meet someone, they're buying from you. Just like in the HVAC world, they're buying from me. And if they can relate to me and see, well, you face the same problems I face, you're human, I can talk to you. And they know if problems occur, they can communicate with you. It just makes it more natural. But yeah. I mean, I've had my kids out and we have a little wagon. I've pushed my dirt bike track before I looked at stuff, talking to a customer. Just, you know, I make sure the customer's not going to a serial killer or whatever, but I make sure it's safe. But I take them and push them around, and my kids, they've been involved with it. I mean, I pull up to my kids' daycare, pulling my equipment trailer with my machines loaded up, picking them up from daycare all the time. I mean, I'm the only dad that pulls up front with a trailer and all the stuff to grab my kids. So everybody knows it's me when I pull up there with the flashers on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think if I was a customer and you came to me with that particular situation, like, hey, we got an overlap in schedule. I had to have the kids for a couple extra hours today. Hope you don't mind. I brought them with the estimate. Like, my first thought would be like, man, he had 7 reasons to cancel or reschedule, but his hustle and grind said, no, I've got a commitment I've made with him. Whatever I got to do, I got to bring the kids. I would actually look at that as a positive because you're not taking any excuses.
Yeah. I try. If they can go, they go. And thank God my wife and my in-laws, my family, they understand. Like, obviously my dad's an entrepreneur. My wife's dad's an entrepreneur. He owns his own business. So they know what it's like. So my in-laws live close to me. My mom and dad live farther away from us. Through the beginnings, my in-laws are like, whatever we can do to help. So having a team and having a family backing you is like a cheat code of life, honestly. So that really helped me with managing my schedule and keeping when I can and dropping off when I can.
Yeah. And that's so true. I can't tell you how many business owners we've talked to over the years that have actually moved back to their hometown once they had kids, just for the support of the family.
Oh yeah. I mean, I moved 45 minutes away from where I grew up, but I moved closer to my wife's family, and then having them is like, it's just like you can't compare it to anything. It's awesome because having people you can depend on like that when you need them most is awesome. Which I can depend on my mom and dad too, but the schedules are a lot different than my in-law schedules, and they're real close. They're 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So where are you at, like, versus in 2021, you jump and do your own thing. And are you as busy now? Are you twice as busy?
I'm twice as busy. And I made the decision to buy a flip home going in the winter. So going to my first winter, I want to stay busy. I know around here, snow's not guaranteed, and I hate the mud a lot. The girl racing dirt bikes and mud, no, I don't want to mess with mud. Call me soft, call me whatever you want, but if I cannot go get mud, I'm not going to get in the mud. So instead of saving all my money for my business, I was like, I'm going to buy a flip house. So I bought a flip house and closed out in November. So December 20th, I got done building a track up in Noblesville. Got done with that, which was a good, solid chunk of money. And then after that, I went to Florida for 2 weeks or a week and a half. I had Christmas, my family, New Year's, and I got back in the middle of January, started working on my flip house. So I've worked on my flip house up until I just got paid for another job like a week ago. So I took 2 months off, essentially just working on my flip house. But yeah, the schedule's already booking up until April, May right now. So my phone's still ringing.
Are you noticing now that you're 2 years in business that you're getting known as like the guy to call for any certain specific services over other ones? Are you getting a lot more calls for one or the other?
Yeah, I get a call. So there's a company around here that builds like houses, but I'm not going to say the name of them because I'm not sure they will be publicly known, but they sell a package to where they don't do any of the backfill. They don't do the finish driveway, nothing. And I'm in with that company. So that company just gives my name directly to the customer. And the customer calls me. So I do a lot of backfills and like tie sewer and tie water and do stuff like that. But honestly, I'm kind of a one-stop. Like people call me because I do handyman stuff too. I have an HVAC EPA license, so I can still do HVAC stuff. So my phone rings for not just excavation, but multiple things.
Yeah. What's your vision for M&M? Are you looking to expand this and get some employees and grow it? Or are you just content being the one-man show, staying busy and not having any idle time? Like, what's your version of success?
My version of success is giving my family the life that they deserve and growing them up, growing my kids up and family up with being involved and being there for my kids. And I don't want to be the busiest, richest man. I want to be just content. I want to build something for my kids to have one day. So my goal, my 5-year plan would be have 12 to 15 properties, rental properties or flip houses, and keep my business going steady, but really have real estate be right alongside my cash flow, or more or less. So I like the one-man show, no headache, low overhead, just keep rolling. I mean, because if I don't want to work for a week or two, I don't have to, and I don't have to answer anybody. I don't have anybody depending on me. So I want to keep as stress-free as I can, as long as I can.
And let's be honest, you can make a lot of money as a one-man show.
My dad, so I live this life. This is people I think they're like, oh, growth is good, growth is good. I watched my dad go from 18 employees to nothing in 2008, like nothing overnight. And it was me and my dad. I was 14, 13 in his work truck helping him run service calls because he had 4 builders file bankruptcy on him, and all his overhead was too much. He had to like produce a business so small. So if I stay my side, it's just me I have to worry about. It's not other people. And let's face it, right now in the way the world, the way the country is, I don't want to have 2 or 3 families depending on me to keep the bills paid. So I want to try to keep it safe.
And I really think like defining growth, because I do believe if you're not growing, you're dying. You can't be stagnant, right? But what's define growth?
Yeah.
Getting more specialized in specific services where you have more value and charge a little more money. Mm-hmm. Like that's still growth over doing any job you can get.
Right. Yeah, no, I want to growth like in my knowledge. I want to growth in my real estate stuff. I want to grow that way because I'm still very, very new and very, very fragile. In as far as knowledge and excavation, I'm so new. So I'm still like I messed up stuff. I messed up a culvert for a concrete driveway the other day that I didn't know about the right compaction. I had to go back and redo it. So I'm growing in that knowledge, and I'm growing in kind of growing like in the GC kind of way because I'm like overseeing jobs and have people working underneath me. Like I want to grow more in that aspect. Like not have actual employees that I are on my payroll, but like other guys I work with that I can work underneath me that I trust.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this in some other industries, and I'm wondering it has to happen in excavation around the country somewhere. But I'm seeing guys pop up with like tree trimming businesses.
Oh yeah,
and they build out the whole business. It looks great. People call, and then they don't have a single employee on the backside. Like it's all subcontracted.
Yeah.
Through other companies.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah, but there is tree guys right here that like my best friend that helped me build that Parsons Motocross track. He owns a tree company, Tim by himself, and he's the same way I am. We both have keep it simple. We make X amount per year, and we're just content with it. He wants to buy investment houses. I want to buy investment houses and keep it. I mean. His dad's an entrepreneur, has high overhead ache. And my dad was that way, and I just don't want to be that way. So, but I don't know. Part of me wishes I had more people to expand and make more money, but in reality, I don't need that much money to live on. My life's really simple, and my happiness is very simple. So, just to keep it as simple as possible, my goal.
But I mean, like, it wouldn't be a big deal if you sold the service through M&M.
Yep.
It's your communication, your values, your guarantee, and then subcontracted that out.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely did it with concrete. Absolutely, I finished concrete one time. Never again. I'm out. I'm good. I'm too soft to finish concrete. One time was good enough.
I did concrete for one summer when I was in high school. My brother's buddy owned a concrete company, and I agree. It's not for me.
I got the dirt bike right underneath. I race dirt bikes, so my knees are horrible. I know I'm 29. My knees are. So I did a 12 by 28 slab last winter with a guy, him and I'm like, yep, I'm never doing it again. So now I have concrete companies I work with that are awesome that do, they figured out, they have it down to a science what to do. So it's easier for me to communicate because my biggest, where I'm best at is talking, obviously. I mean, I've made a living off talking, communicating with people. So making sure that the customer is comfortable with everything and everything gets done right is something I do utilize. And that's when you say growth, I think of that. How many more relationships can I build with good people in the industry I need help with and use them to go do the job? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, like define your growth. I mean, because you have to be growing, otherwise you're going backwards. But it doesn't have to be more employees, more money.
Right. In that sense, I want to grow my umbrella of people of contacts I have, because I want a team of people that I know if they're on a job, it's gonna be done right, and they're not gonna half-ass enough. They're gonna get done the correct way, and that's hard to do because there's a million businesses pop up that look all great on the internet, but how are they? How good are they really? Like I'll go online and admit my faults all the time on YouTube. I'll talk about I messed this up and messed that up because that's part of the deal. You're gonna mess up.
Yeah. We interviewed a guy up in Alaska, Cameron Hogate, and he does a lot of posts about the dumb shit he does or the mistakes he makes. Yeah. And he's like, man, that gets me more business than look at me, pat my own back. I'm the best. Yeah. And man, being real. And I made a video last 2 weeks ago about a customer was going to sue me because a concrete guy lied about a compaction test that it was a big deal. I mean, I didn't sign a contract because the GC was one of my really good friends. Then the concrete guy snowballed me, but I made a whole whole video talking about the reality. Just because you're friends and you trust this guy does not mean money is the root of all evil. And they will, if they have an angle to make thousands of dollars, they're going to do it. And that my expense is what he tried doing. And it was harsh reality of this business. Oh, absolutely, it is. Absolutely. So, do you do a lot of YouTube videos? Oh yeah. I mean, I just hit 2,500 subscribers. Man, good for you. Yeah. So and it's is it all excavation stuff, or do you do a mix of motocross, real life kids? It's mostly motocross. It's some excavation, but all my dirt bike tracks, I film them and document them. And I mean, I went last October down to Brian Latimer's a professional bass fisherman. And I went to his house in South Carolina back in October, built a track. So, and I connected with him because of YouTube. So it was pretty cool. So is it safe to say that outside of networking and using your connections in the community or building your new connections, that social media is probably your number 2 for promotion? Yeah, 100%. And I post the good, the bad, the ugly. And I work with the algorithms, which people that did not grow up in the excavator or the social media rise and how it worked, you have to play the algorithms. So, I'm sure you know about algorithms and how they work and how you post certain times, Eastern time or whatever time you guys are on, it gets more traction. So like in Eastern time, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, between 6 and 9 p.m. is like peak traffic time online. So I post either on my personal page, my YouTube, or my business page, something. It doesn't even have to be excavation related. It's just something so people see it. That way, when my other stuff gets posted, 9 times out of 10, they're going to see my stuff come across the screen. So, and I'll be honest with you, I hate social media now. I'm so sick of social media because I have to do it so much to stay relevant with the algorithm. But in order to be seen and keep your name relevant, you have to be on there making posts. I mean, it might be about my kids. It might be about my trucks. It's not just excavation. It's real life stuff that people might see and it gets traction. So that's a big thing I've learned to use and utilize. And that keeps my phone ringing too, because your name keeps going off in their head. Oh, Cole does that. Oh, Cole will do that. It's a tool I use. It's a great tool, man. I mean, from people that have massive followings on YouTube down to a kid starting out in a small town. I've heard such great success stories from everybody from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. The Dirt Ninja was on the show last year, and he said a guy followed him for 3 years. And when the time came to build a new road, he called. He didn't even get a quote from him. He was like, "Hey, I want you to build my road." It was a $750,000 project. Yeah, all the time. I get guys call me, realtors, local guys. I don't care what it is, man. Just come do it. That's where I lean back on faith and God, because my phone might not ring, and I'm gonna get like my bank account. I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little sketchy, and then my phone rings, and it's a guy saying, "Hey, I got a house, need demoed. I need this driveway added. I need this stuff done. Just come do it when you can," and then I'll go do it. Then I had a guy up north of where I live now who wants a track built and his driveway redone. His driveway is 2,200 feet long. Needs all new drains and all new ditches, everything. And that's just a big project.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that one project will pay for 4 months of just me living. Like I could not work and be good for 4 months. So
Right.
yeah. So I turn a lot of work down. If I'm not comfortable doing something, I'll just be like, no, I'm not interested, or I'll refer somebody that can do it. Like I don't do any septic work whatsoever. Like none. I do sewer hookup, but I won't do actual septics because that's too much overhead. It's too much time I could be doing other little small jobs by myself.
Yeah, I think there's a balance. I know a lot of guys that do really well in the septic industry, but
Yeah.
the first year was really
Yeah.
hard.
And you have to have a team. If you can do it by yourself, but have a team, a good team, and knowing your numbers and knowing like the in and out and that's really hard. And I feel like I could, if I had a guy that knew how to do septic to teach me, I would do it. But I don't want to be set for that and then have 10 septic sold and I can't do other jobs in between that I'd like to do.
Right.
And plus, I want to do what I think is fun. I mean, as dumb as that might sound from a business owner perspective, I want to do what I want to do. And
no, you got to have a passion, man. I'm a firm believer. You got to have passion. If you're doing everything for money, then
yeah, exactly.
You're not having fun, and life isn't about. I mean, money's a tool. It's not an outcome.
Yeah. No, it's not an outcome. And we're all going to die and be 6 foot deep unless we're cremated. So I'm not trying to be the richest man. I mean, I have like a big house and stuff, but I bought it when it was a crap hole and remodeled it. And I utilized money to keep going. But if people saw my bank account, they'd be like, oh, you're just a normal human. I'm like, yeah, I've used money to keep going. I make dumb financial decisions like everybody else.
Yeah. But you're also looking at it as a tool. Like you're not hoarding it. You're buying a flip house in the winter and you're remodeling it. And then you so you get the main concept. There's so many guys I meet that like they want to go into winter and they want to hibernate because they're afraid to spend $1.
Yeah. No, every wealthy mentor I know, wealthy, whether you want to say money or wealthy, just has a good life. They all told me the dumbest thing you can do is keep the money sitting in the bank and not working for you. The dumbest thing you can do. I was like, all right, because I mean, $100 grand in your bank account doesn't do nothing but sit there. It's not. I mean, you can't do nothing with it, but just look at it.
You can go look at studies and studies and studies on it, man. But if you have money in a savings account, a substantial amount, with the way inflation's moving, it's actually losing value and buying power.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to convince my wife, which thank God. That's another thing. If you have a good wife, oh my gosh, a good wife will take you so much farther in this world. Because she runs the skid steer for me. She goes out and helps me labor sometimes. She's not scared to deal with it. She's a teacher, so she has all summer off. So in the summers, if I need help, she's like, let's go. What are we doing? But I had explained to her, she's like, well, why is all this money going out? I'm like, because here's how much it's making if it sits there. Here's how much it can make if it goes does this. I said, why not just have it tied up here for a couple months and have this return versus sitting in this account and make nothing for 6 months? Because I mean, I've looked at money in my account for 8 months and nothing changes. But it changes if I take it and go do that and do something to get return on it. It does something.
Yep. 100%, man. It took me a long time to learn that. You're lucky. You grew up in a family of business owners and around that in that community. Like my father was a millwright, worked second and third shift. My mom was a stay at home, then worked part-time jobs when we got older. Like we were never taught and shit. My parents were never taught finances.
Most people, they don't want you. Don't get me off politics and weeds because I'll go all day long. But they don't want you to know how that works. Like if it wasn't for me watching my dad go from millionaire to broke in 8 months, my reality, I mean, literally, I had 5 dirt bikes, all his trucks, boats, all this stuff to nothing. So the best thing that ever happened to me was my dad losing almost everything. Like my mom and I getting divorced and that was the best, because I'd have been a rich, spoiled kid and I wouldn't have a work ethic. I wouldn't know where a dollar is. And my dad he told me when I was 15, he goes, you're going to hate me, son, probably the next 5 years. So one day you'll look back and be like, thank you for doing that. And I mean, my mom and him both were like, life's going to suck for a while, but you're going to figure it out. So my little brother's 24. He owns his own business too. We both left the HVAC world and started our own businesses. So we just grew up knowing like we don't want to go through that. So
where'd your brother's passion take him?
He's a general contractor, so he does a little bit of everything. And I mean, the kid knows how to do a lot of stuff. And same thing, networking is his biggest tool. He has people and builds teams to work with him. But if the customer has a problem, calls him, I'll take care of it. So and his business name is a Happy Life Contracting. And the slogan is happy wife equals a happy life. That's literally his business card. I'm like, dude, that's pretty outlandish, but if it works, it works.
It definitely works. I mean, it's memorable and repeatable, and that's
easy. Exactly.
That's 9/10 the battle is making somebody remember it.
And if they laugh, you're probably good. If they giggle, they're probably they're probably sold.
Yeah, like I would guarantee you more people remember you by your name and your personal brand than they do M&M EarthWurx.
100%, 100%.
Just by meeting you and talking to you this little bit, I'm like, oh yeah, nobody remembers his business name, but they don't forget him.
Yeah, I've tried to make that be like, I don't say I put on an act, because I'm this way 24/7. Like, I'm this way no matter what. I don't know a stranger by default. Like, sometimes it's a bad time, because I'll be talking to some guy in Kroger. My wife's like, who is that? I'm like, I don't know, but I saw him on a job 5 years ago and I remembered something about him, so I talked to him. But yeah, no one cares about the backfill I did and the tracking job I did. No one remembers that. They remember me making them laugh and being relatable on the internet.
Yeah. And I think the power of a personal brand, I think it gets over talked about with all the influencers and the whole lifestyle. And I think business owners look at it like, I don't want to be an influencer.
No.
And it's not, I mean, you have to like separate and go, it's not influencing. It's just positioning yourself as the head of the company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Influencers, don't get me started on influencers.
No, but I think people take personal brand and they automatically assume that they need to have the life of an influencer. And I'm like, no, it's not that at all.
No. Yeah, because I'm not influencing you to buy nothing from. Like, I'm not selling no brands. This is my life, this is how I am. Come as you are, I'll accept it.
Yeah, like I would love to sell skid steer attachment to everybody I talk to. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, that's the business I'm in, right? And we have the podcast and we do the YouTube videos for education. And I just look at that as like branding for Skid Steer Nation.
Exactly. And that's why.
But you wouldn't believe how many people, when they call the company and I go, hello, Skid Steer Nation, this is Ryan. And they're like, oh shit, I got you.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean you got me? Like, yeah.
Yeah. But branding yourself, that's a huge thing. And going back to the motocross world, a lot of the privateer, like not top factory guys, but privateers that race Supercross on their own budget, they brand themselves. They're selling. You're not selling your race results. You're selling what can you do for my company. Like, you're selling yourself that way. So I've taken a lot from the motocross world and how I run my business too, just how I relate to people and how I just present my business model, basically. Yeah.
So you built tracks for a long time. You had some bikes and tinkered around, but did you ever do like semi-pro or events?
So the highest I raced was basically pro-am. Like, there's A, B, C classes. So 450A would be like right underneath pro. Like, you can race for pro points. And I got to that level, but I ended up breaking my back whenever I was 17. I was 17 or 16. And that and financial stuff, I was like, yeah. So I ended up buying a big metal ramp, a big metal X Games ramp. And my dad let me build a huge landing in my house, which was the best idea ever. And I started doing big jumps and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I rode since I was 4 till I was 25, basically full time. Yeah,
I've never talked to a guy in motocross that hasn't had some severe injury.
I think it's part of it. And if you haven't, it's coming. If you say you haven't, it's coming.
If it's not if, it's when. And if it's and if you've never had one, it means you really aren't racing.
Yeah. So funny story about how the whole excavation thing kicked off in my business. So we bought this house. My wife and I were engaged. We weren't married. And she was going to her bachelorette party that weekend. It was in June. We just bought the house. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to build some jumps back here. Bodie's bringing up the 450J Dozer. I'm going to build some jumps back here. I'm like, where can how far up in the yard can I come? Which I'll send you this picture. You're going to be like, no way that your wife let you do this. She dropped the line on the property where she goes, don't come past here. So I dropped 2 stakes, spray paint a line. I put the dozer blade right on the edge of it. I built a 65-foot double right in my front yard. Like, when you walk out my front door, all you see is a giant jump. So as she came home, I didn't send her any pictures or nothing. She was my bachelorette party. I came home and my buddies were over here. I'm riding. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, but look off the front deck. You can see me jumping off the front porch. She goes, I don't want to see that, but it's still there. I left it there. She's like, are you serious? Yeah.
So, man, that is funny.
And I use that as advertising to do my track stuff in my own house. I filmed it for YouTube also, and it was one of my higher view videos at the time, and that started leading into more and more people getting track builds. Which YouTube took forever to pick up traction. I mean, it stays dormant forever because if you're not very popular, the algorithm won't pick you up or help you at all. So that was in 2020.
We struggle with YouTube too.
Yeah.
But again, I just think I think more important than anything is being consistent.
Yep. Yep. You got,
and that's a hell of a life lesson too, right, Cole? Like, be consistent in your networking efforts. Be consistent in your social media posting. Be consistent in the quality of work you give.
Yeah, and that exactly that is be consistent accountability. Like if you mess something up, make sure that no matter what, people know if there's a mistake, you've made it right. Because maybe not now, but 5 years down the road, if someone's bad mouthing you out in public and a customer overhears that and they're like, he wouldn't do that. He's never done that before. Like the accountability is everything.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I know my life's not going to be perfect. And when I hire people to do things, like there's going to be mistakes.
Exactly. We're all human beings. Yeah.
Right. So I always look at the person when that mistake happens. I go, listen, I'm not mad that it happened. I get it. It happens. How are you going to handle it?
Exactly.
That's what makes the man. That's what makes the man.
Yeah. All I've had to swallow my pride a lot and say, listen, I made a mistake. I'll come back and fix it. You don't owe me nothing. And you know, in this excavation world, when you got to go fix something free, it's not necessarily cheap, especially when you have to run a machine and then hire people come help. It's a deal. But yeah, I mean, you just got to do it. I made a mistake. I got to make it right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the customers that you make mistakes on, but you actually make it right, are probably better megaphones and mouthpieces for you in your business than the ones that had a seamless, perfect transaction.
Yeah, because they remember that. Because 9 times out of 10, they're losing sleep at night over the problem that happened. So they're thinking about it. Then you go make it right. Like that situation I talked about, almost got sued. I ended up offering that customer, I was like, I'll give you a free day with me and my machine to come make this right, and then I'll help you finish the rest of your job. Because the kid's a brand new GC. This is his first house he ever built. And I've grown up in construction, so I knew a lot of steps to save him time. So I stood there and helped him do a sewer clean out, help him prep for concrete, do everything I could do to make it easier. And I kind of just for free, for a whole day for free. Then the next day I had to go and finish more stuff. But that one thing, the mom and dad of the kid were like, we're telling people what you're doing because we really appreciate that. Because although it wasn't my fault that they had to do the other steps because it wasn't my fault, but I still offered. I know that I was like, this isn't on me, but I feel bad for you guys. So I want to make this right and try to give you guys, a positive outlook on this. So I went and helped as much as I could. But yeah, because that customer's going to tell the next sub he has, and the next sub he has, and the next sub he has, and that just keeps going and going and going. Next thing you know, most of the guys in my area that do this kind of work or that need this kind of work know that, oh, hey, Cole came and fixed this for free, essentially.
Yeah. He's a man of his word. He says he's going to get done. He's going to get done.
Yeah. But yeah, I hate those phone calls when they're like, this wasn't done right. I'm like, oh my gosh. And your wheels are turning and it's a Friday at 3:30. And you're like, I got to run a machine. I got to get there done. The worst thing is whenever you have a thing prep for concrete and I did that one culvert thing wrong. And it was totally my fault. I totally misunderstood what the guy said. And it was, he called me. I was at my grandma's house, visiting my grandma. Called me and said, hey man, this isn't going to be done. I need to redo it all. I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I had to start picking up the phone, making phone calls and figure it out and go back and fix it. So, and it's hard to pull in a job to a customer, knowing you made this huge mistake, to go back and fix it and have to face that guy. That's the hardest part. It's facing the guy after you made a problem to make it right. And then once you make it right, it's all good. But man, pulling in the job site, knowing you're the guy that is holding everybody up is tough. Like, I never forget. I crashed over a hill and saw the guy standing there. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get out of the truck. I don't want to get out of the truck. It's hard.
Yeah, but as soon as it's done, everybody's happy and
yeah.
And because you didn't fight and argue and try to justify your mistake.
Mm-hmm.
He's all good with it, I assume.
Yeah. You can't cheat a level, man. So I told the guy, I got a truck. I said, well, I guess that level don't lie. I said, we're going to figure this thing out, aren't we? Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So real estate, I think as business owners, I think a lot of us are always interested in like, how do we use the money to make more money instead of just buying more excavation equipment? Yeah, and not pay taxes. Yeah, how we got? And you're rolling into the real estate arena. Like, what was it about the real estate from you, the previous experience, or something you've learned that said this is the avenue I want to go down? This house I'm sitting in. I mean, I bought this house. Again, my father-in-law's best friend Chris is actually my business partner now on real estate stuff. He found this house whenever my wife and I were looking, and it was $186,000. It was top of my budget. Like I made $18 an hour. My wife was a brand new teacher, and it was literally all we could afford. And it needed a lot of work. I mean, you can't really tell, but like all these walls aren't painted. I wish I could do a walk around, but the house we lived in for a year, or 16 months, the house was vacant. There was holes in the walls. The pipes were busted in the master bedroom. It's a newer house. It's built in 2009, but the people foreclosed on it and just abandoned it. It wasn't winterized, so it needed a lot of work.
So thankfully, with my mechanical background in HVAC, I had the tools and the know how to fix it. So I came in and fixed it all. We redid the whole house by ourselves. And that equity in the house that I got really was like a light bulb. I'm like, if I can just do what I know how to do and take a little bit of time, I can make X amount of dollars. And if I lived here long enough, it's tax free. I don't pay capital gains tax. So this house, without this house, I would never be in the business I'm in now. I mean, this was another remodel, like education, if you will. It took us 2.5 years to remodel it all and do it ourselves. Because my wife and I had, like, coming into it, I'll be honest with you, which is when we got the offer accepted, we had like $4,000 to our name. So that was enough to pay closing costs. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And then I prayed on it, and we ended up winning a car in a raffle. We won an actual Nissan Sentra car in a raffle, and I sold that, and that's how I paid for the remodel. I'm serious. I'm not making it up. Yeah, I'm dead serious.
I mean, I think the timing of it's more crazy to me than the fact that you actually won a car. But
yeah, at the time, literally, we closed on the offer was accepted on like a Tuesday, and it was 2 weeks to that Friday. My dad's like, hey, we're raffling off the car up here if you guys want in. I said, yeah, I'll take 2 tickets. And I wasn't even there. I just did to be nice. And my dad called me. He's like, no way you want this car. I'm like, dude, I can afford to put floors in my house.
I can afford to put floors in my house.
I was like, let's go. Yeah, most 24-year-old kids want to put, chromers on the Denali Dirt Max. I'm like, I got to put floors in.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. And it's funny. Like, I think the world gives those that are trying a little advantage from time to time. Yeah. Like I always say it's God, right? Like, it is. But you don't deserve a car. God didn't say, hey, you did a great job of your car, but like, hey, he's doing the work. He's making other people around him better. He's strong in his community. He's not being selfish. I just feel like the world gives back to that type of attitude.
I mean, because without winning that car, that happened. And the lesson I learned in this house, my life wouldn't be, the whole outlook changes. So like all the steps, because when I closed in the house, I did not want, I was against it. I felt horrible about it. It was 45 minutes away from where I worked. It was 45 minutes away from where I grew up, but it presented itself. It was a big house. There was equity to be made. And I said, yeah. And with faith, you don't always see the outcome. You're never going to see the outcome, but you just test your faith, or you'll test your faith, but you trust in your faith, you trust in God. And then, that happened. And so many other things like that have happened in my life. It's just like, that's not luck, that's God, because there's no way that he saw that I would ever see that coming.
Yeah. And it's hard to follow that path blind sometimes.
Many sleepless nights and worrying and anxiety. And that's another thing that I lean back on God with, because starting a new business, the worry and the anxiety, especially all winter long, about not knowing when the phone was going to ring for the springtime. Like, I had a lot of nights I was worried and anxious, and I just turned to God in the Bible to kind of settle me down. And without that, I feel like I would have a panic attack and have a heart attack before I'm 30. So I need to.
And I totally hear you, man. Being a little bit farther along in the journey as an entrepreneur, I find myself from time to time, like, let's say you go for a 30-day period and you go cash flow negative.
Oh, yeah.
Like most guys can't sleep. They're freaking out. And then I found, just from years of experience, like, just trust the process, keep putting in the work. The hours you spend worrying about it are hours you're not working on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to where I was like, I can't control it right now. All I can do is do what I can do. So it'll work itself out in the end.
Yeah. So not sleeping all night and then giving a half-ass effort the next day because you don't have the mental capacity. Nothing leads to that. And it took me a long time, but I'm pretty comfortable now. Like my fiance, my friends that know me and all that, they're like, we don't even know when you're having a bad month. And I'm like, I can control the content I put out there. I can control the money I spend in marketing. I can control majority of the user experience on the website, but I can't control them by hitting that damn buy button.
Yeah, that's literally, we can only control. Yeah, you can't worry about what you can't control. Right. It was up to recently. Like, I just learned how to deal with that and let it go within the last 3 months. Because my first winter business, agreeing to buy the flip house, I'm like, I really should have thought about it, because it's a lot of money I didn't get a more. We paid cash for the house, so it's a lot of liquid money to go and fund the house. But it's like, I probably should have done that for the winter time, because I know I'm not going to get paid. But the time was right, and I just trusted. At that point, I prayed for it. I prayed to an investment, and then when it presented itself, I couldn't. Okay, I prayed for this. I got to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, having a plan and then just sticking my goals or my plan kind of written out. Because when times get really tough, I can grab that. Because I was like, when I wrote those goals when I was calm, cool, and collected. Right. So I can trust the state of mind I was in when I wrote it all out.
But no, I have to go back in times where I'm like, I reflect on where I used to be to where I am now. Like I remember my wife and I got back from our honeymoon, we had like $700 to our name together. And I'm like, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So now if I get down and get, well, I think about what we got now to where I was, I'm like, I'm good. If we make it through those times, we can do this, no problem. We'll just keep rolling with it.
Yeah, and I love that outlook. I was just listening or reading something the guy talked about. We will always move the goalpost if we're always looking forward.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to get to 50K a month in revenue. And then you get to 50 and you're like, well, I really need 100K. Like you just keep moving the goalpost.
And
the only way to really look at where you've grown to is to go look backwards. And we always forget to look backwards.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember all I had was my dad to drive home the HVAC van and my wife's car. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a vehicle for a long time. I bought this house. I couldn't afford both. So I had all the dirt bikes, Harleys, a truck, sold everything I had from where I used to rent at to buy this place. So reflecting on back where I was then to now, I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm living great. I should be super thankful.
Yeah. The guy Marty I know, he's actually a friend of mine. I met him when I was in the bar business. His story always resonated with me. He was in college. His girlfriend's dad was into real estate a little bit. He kind of watched and learned a little bit from that. Took every dollar he had to scrounge it up to make a down payment to buy his first house, first rental house.
Gotcha.
He bought 4 rental houses before he bought his own house.
Yeah.
He sold his car to buy his first rental house.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
20 years later, he has like 74 rental houses in a college town. 60, 70, 80% of them are paid off, not to mention the monthly revenue income.
That's wild.
All because he bet on himself, sold the car, and didn't buy nice things for himself, but kept buying more houses for the dynasty. I
mean, that's how, like right now, my wife, she drives a 2014 Kia Sorento we inherited. It. And they just got a new motor put in it from a recall. And we could go buy her a brand new SUV, but that's not going to do it. We're still going to be getting to point A, point B the same way. The way it looks doesn't matter. And I used to be into that flashy big truck, nice wheels. And I realized that does nothing for you. You might look like you're balling, but you're not. Like that payment a month's a house. Like my mortgage on a rental house, if you do the math, a mortgage on a rental house is cheaper than most of these guys are paying for these nice trucks. If you work with a truck, I justify, paying that much money to something that makes you money. But if you're just doing it to look cool, to me, it just doesn't resonate.
And let's be honest, Cole, if you're doing it as a work truck, it doesn't have 24s. It's not lifted 4 inches.
No, it's level.
It's level. It's got the pizza cutter style cheap wheels on it. It's, a bench seat because they make an F350 in that basic boring configuration.
I went and bought the one I have now. I bought it. My dad has a place in Florida, and I went as soon as he bought the place in Florida. I found a truck for sale. A 2015 F350, factory gooseneck, factory airbags for the built transmission. It was a single rear wheel. I had a dually, but my wife was driving the winter. I was still HVAC, and she wasn't comfortable. So we found this truck. It's a 4-door short bed. It's leather seats or whatever. It had wheels on it. I drove it home. It looked nice, but I worked with it, and the nice wheels and tires on it were so inconvenient. For the first time in my life, I took off the nice looking stuff and put stock wheels on. I'm like, you know what? This is more practical. And I'm like, I'm getting old. I'm maturing. I sold the nice wheels. I got stock ones.
Yeah, I mean, mine's a F350, not a dually either. And all my friends are like, when are you gonna lift it, or when are you gonna add airbags? When are you gonna put the different rims and tires on it? And I'm like, no, the only thing I want nice is I want a heated seat.
Yep.
I want some leisures for me just because I'm getting older, but I could care less about the rest of it.
Yeah, that's how I knew, really, honestly, my gauge of me maturing was that. Like, I don't want to flex nice people, which I wash it. It looks nice for what it is, but it's a work. I mean, I put 45,000 miles on it since last April. Like, it's a work truck. Like, I feel bad for it. I mean, it's up to a 40-foot trailer right now that I had all my stuff up to yesterday. But it's a tool. And then my goal is to, instead of doing something nicer, I want to pay it off and get another truck that has something else to use for work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't use mine for what it's meant to be used for anymore. And it's almost paid off. The interest rate's super low.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I don't want another payment after this
Yeah.
one. And I'm like, God, even though I could get by with a regular half ton, but
yeah, I got snowball. I made an impulse buy and bought an F450 when I first got busy excavations. I thought I had to have one with toolboxes. Learned I did not need that. Did not need a big honking F450. 8 mile-gallon diesel, and it was $5 a gallon. Oh my Lord, it was horrible. So last spring we got rid of it and bought this Raven truck. But I got locked in a super high interest rate, so I'm paying double payments per month trying to get it paid off. I want to pay it off this summer just to get rid of it. But yeah, my whole goal is to only have a mortgage for the next 18 months. Just have mortgages, have no car payments.
Yeah, it's nice. It's shocking how much money goes out a month for vehicle payments, especially if you're in a family.
I saw a thing last week, or maybe it was yesterday. A guy said, I can tell a family it's always going to stay middle class and uncomfortable if they have two nice cars on the driveway. Because people, it's just crazy what people pay for vehicles. It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, they say the millionaire next door has an average of a 7-year-old vehicle.
Yeah. Oh, most of millionaires I know driving hoopties, like actual hoopties. That's how it is.
It is, man. Yeah, my fiance drives a ton for work, so it's almost like a mobile office for her.
Yeah.
Because she's in the car. I mean, I think she's going to have 65 or 70,000 miles on it in a 12-month period.
That is insane.
She covers 5 states.
Yeah.
So I don't bug her too much when she wants a nice car. You live in the damn thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And she makes plenty of money that it's irrelevant. But
right.
At the same point, I'm like, you're not buying those crazy import luxury cars that not that you can't afford it, but I can't stomach to see the deduction for mileage when you go to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the top of the depreciation, there's another line item for high miles for those luxury cars, right? So I'm like, find as nice as you want, this level or down. And then we'll go to my buddy who owns a car lot and we'll have him shop and find you one that's 1 to 2 years old with 10 to 20,000. And we'll at least take part of the top haircut off.
Exactly. Yeah. Buying used is by far the best for sure.
Well, I went down the rabbit hole a couple of years ago looking at trucks, and I found that between year 3 and year 5, the depreciation value of like an F-150 or whatever was so minute that you almost didn't lose any money at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, if you just got to find a truck that's 3 years old and sell it when it's 5, because at 6 years is when the second dip happens.
That's when you have to make either I'm keeping this thing or we're selling it. So I'm to the point. So I've bought and sold a lot of trucks, which going back to investment, I bought and sold, which you had that Luke, what's his name? Luke, how you say last name with the E?
Eggerbrotten.
So I listened to that episode a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how he bought and sold dirt bikes and stuff in high school. I did the same thing. I reached out to him and talked to him about stuff, and his story was cool. But so I did the same thing with dirt bikes and trucks. So I bought and sold trucks a lot, and that's another reason I got an idea of how I wanted to buy and sell stuff. And then when the house thing came about, I was like, okay, if I can do trucks, I probably can do houses. It just takes a lot more up front. But yeah, so I got pretty educated on the diesel truck world and how it worked. But yeah, I'll never buy a brand new diesel or a brand new truck ever. On the 3 or 5 year mark is perfect.
Yeah. I think mine was 2.5 years old when I bought it. And I've had it for over 3 years. And I think it's depreciated less than $7,000.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally, and people all day long are probably want to take. Is it 6.7? Is that diesel?
Yep.
Yeah, dude, that motor and that package just you can't beat it.
Because I bought it before the market went nuts.
Yeah, good.
So I got it with 60,000 miles. A guy with a cabinet maker owned it. He never hauled a thing with it. I got it for $57,000. Yeah,
you did well. You did. Yeah, people would be. I can't believe people aren't just emailing you every day. Just, hey.
Well, during COVID, it was worth $70, $75.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should do this. But I'm like, what do you replace it with?
Hey, that's exactly right. Exactly.
So you make an extra 15K on it, but you're going to spend 25 more.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
get something comparable. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
No. And when a lot of people fell for that, and unfortunately, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with machines. I've seen a lot of equipment. People buy brand new stuff, which I mean, I guess if you need a write-off to buy a brand new machine or you want the warranty, I mean, we bought a low-hour Kubota skid steer. It's been really well with maintenance and stuff, but I go to these meetings and meet with sales guys on equipment. I'm like, man, I can't justify spending that much money. I know it makes me money, but I'm not at that point in business. Like I'm not busy enough doing dirt all the time to where I can justify spending that much money on a new machine because that is expensive investment.
Yeah, I've talked to numerous guys that do more dirt work, grading, driveway repair, stuff like that. And some of these guys have found like they only buy used machines from land clearing companies.
Yeah.
Because the land clearing companies aren't abusing the machine, they're abusing the hydraulics.
Yeah, exactly.
And the dirt guys hardly use any hydraulics.
Exactly. Just put exactly.
So like they found that it's just like, hey, we can get a really good value on a 2-3-year-old machine that's not fitting the purpose of the land clearing guy anymore and that mulcher. But the undercarriage, everything's in great shape because all it's doing is crawling around in the woods at a mile an hour. And we're not running 30 gallons per minute for any attachments doing the dirt work that we do. And
there's definitely a formula user. Have you ever heard that CNC equipment? The Shitwoods have a big YouTube channel.
No, I'm not familiar with them.
They buy old stuff and like auction it and refurb it and send it out. And he's a guy that his son race dirt bikes back to the Dirt Bike Network. And I met him through Motocross. And if I have questions on equipment, I'll call him. Like, what's your honest opinion? Because he buys and sells old stuff all day long. And he's really in tune with that stuff. And it's crazy what a guy that does equipment every single day, what he knows versus a guy that you get out, look at auction online, what to look for and not look for. That's another cheap to have.
Yeah, I got a really good friend of mine. He worked at dealerships forever. And now he owns his own, he brokers for rental companies and small, companies, and he'll buy and sell stuff. It's the same thing. The knowledge they have on the actual market of all the equipment, it's kind of baffling.
Yeah, but I'm like, how do you guys know because there's so many, like the hydraulic, like this hydraulic pump's bad in this one, but not this one. Like there's so many different details. I'm like, dang, I'm never buying a machine unless I go and ask him his advice.
But Cole, I bet maybe even still today, I bet you could do the exact same thing for HVAC systems.
Yeah. That's another thing. The new HVAC systems, they're getting to where they're just plug and play. There's not like you go out and plug a computer into it, you say what's wrong with it, change the part. Like that to me that's another reason I'm like, this is not fun. Like I actually like going, get out my tester and testing stuff and figuring out what's wrong with it. Not just plug a thing and, we need this, change the part.
Yeah, but it's the time in front of the machines, time in the market. That's the same reason those guys are so good at those machines.
Oh yeah, I get phone calls about a furnace. A guy sends me a picture. I'm like, that's a 1997, train. That model had this problem. So yeah, it makes sense. Just around it 24/7.
Yeah. You just around it. So
I don't miss those days. 8 p.m. at night, it's cold. My buddy calls me, hey man, I ain't talked to you since high school, but I got no heat. I need some
Yeah, because we do our business online, I'm starting to get friends in my area. It's like, hey, what do you know about SEO? And I'm like, I know enough to get myself in trouble and not enough to teach you a thing. How about that?
Yeah, literally. If I tell you what I know, you're going to go blow yourself up. So please don't go touch your phone.
It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Man, that's funny. That's funny. So what's the rest of the spring look like for you? You said you're booked out for 6-8 weeks till April or so?
Yeah, I got actually, believe it or not, there's a public motocross track getting ready to become public 45 minutes from my house. And I've been consulting with a guy building it back and forth for a couple of years. And now I'm going to go down and do the finish on it, all the finishing touches and help them get opened up. And then I got another one to build up by Mooresville, Indiana. And then I got, what else do I have? Well, I got those 2 projects in my rental stuff, so that should time it for a while. That motocross track project, the public one's gonna take me a couple of weeks to get going.
Nice, man.
There's a lot of things on the cusp. I have emails back and forth about foundation backfills, putting in yards and grading. The guy needs a pond graded. The backside is pond graded, but it's just too money to do it. So there's a lot of stuff I have up in the air pending. And there's a couple of things I have locked down. But actually, motocross tracks are like my next. When it gets dry, I got 3 to do. So I'll be busy for a while doing dirt bike tracks.
That's so cool. Like, good for you that you can blend work and passion. And I know you can't do it every day, but it's nice to be able to do 3, 4, 5 of those a year. And
I mean, I'll do 3 before May, and I think I did 3 or 4 last year. I did 4 last year. It's like I I kind of feel bad because I have to charge for it because it's my business, but I'm doing what I like to do. Like I don't ever feel like I'm working when I'm building jumps. And you have no overhead but diesel and the rental price if you rent a dozer or whatever. So I have no overhead. So it's pretty profitable to do it that way.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Cole, man, I want to be respectful of your time. We've been on talking now for over an hour. I didn't realize time flew right by today. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm horrible about that, to be honest with you. We get talking and just get going. I get rolling.
Just get going. Yeah. But yeah. So, great little nuggets today for people to take out and apply to their personal life and their business life. Find what fires you up and makes you excited at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Money's a tool. Don't hoard it.
Yeah.
And my favorite one was faith, family, then business.
Yeah, 100%. People might think that's crazy, but that's the way I'm taking approach of it, and it's not let me down since then.
No,
I would tell people too, getting into it, don't compare yourself to other businesses that are killing it and post all this work you're doing because that's not your life. You have your own lane. Don't worry about their lane. Stay in your own lane.
Yeah. The other nugget, don't forget to look backwards and compare yourself to where you were, not to who you see out ahead of you.
100%. Yes, sir.
So good deal, man. Well, Cole, thanks so much for joining the show. We appreciate it. Anything Skid Steer Nation can ever do for you, please let us know.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like you in a grocery store, and I just met a new friend today. So thank you.
I've heard that a lot, and I think that's my biggest asset to that. But hey, you're close to me. I didn't realize you're that close. I will have to swing over there. You're probably a 2-hour drive.
Oh, that's not too bad at all then. Yeah, we'll have to definitely get together sometime. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the old flyover states unite.
Literally, how far are you from Effingham?
Probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think.
Is that south, north?
It's like south, it's a little southwest. Like we're dead center between Chicago and St. Louis, middle of the state.
I was just
where Bloomington is.
Yeah.
So I'm 20 minutes from Bloomington, 25 minutes.
Gotcha. Right on. Yeah, but you're still not that far. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Peoria was the world headquarters for Caterpillar for over 100 years.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, excellent, my friend. Guys, if you're listening to this and got something out of it, don't forget to subscribe to the show, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, like that. If you have any comments or anything, we'd love to hear from you. Questions. If you're interested in being a guest, we'd love to hear from you too. Boy, other than that, I guess I'll just finish it by saying thanks, Cole, for coming on the show. And guys, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.